Hi everyone, it's Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. For 362 days, Ukraine stands strong against the forces of the Russian invasion. Yesterday, Ukraine marked Heavenly 100 Remembrance Day. On this day, in 2014, first killings of peaceful protesters started at the Maidan. Overall, over 100 people were killed. Yesterday, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, visited Ukraine for the first time since he became the president. Since early morning, social media users started to share information about large portions of Kyiv being blocked by security forces, and many assumed that it was due to some foreign visitor. Some even guessed correctly that it was due to the visit of the US president. Ukrainian users, restaurants and shops started to share photos from different parts of Kyiv with Joe Biden photoshopped there. In reality, the US president met his Ukrainian colleague Volodymyr Zelensky, laid flowers to the wall of remembrance of those who died for Ukraine, and held a press conference, reports Interfax Ukraine. The US president said that his visit should reaffirm the unwavering commitment of the United States to democracy, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Ukraine. He said when Putin launched his invasion nearly 1 year ago, he thought Ukraine was weak and the West was divided. Biden stressed that Putin was wrong, and 1 year later, here we stand together, united with the people of Ukraine. The US leader announced another military support package for Ukraine worth $500 million, reports European Pravda. The Pentagon later clarified that the package includes additional ammunition for the HIMARS multiple launch rocket systems, artillery shells, mortar rounds, 4 radar systems, additional Javelin anti-tank systems, and about 2,000 anti-tank missiles. 4 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, 2 tactical vehicles, Claymore anti-personnel mines, night vision devices, communications equipment, medical supplies, and spare parts for machinery. Biden also said later the United States will announce new sanctions that will not allow circumventing the sanctions mechanisms. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called Biden's visit to Kyiv the most important in the history of Ukrainian-US relations, reports Interfax Ukraine. He reminded that it is the first visit of the US president in 15 years. According to Zelensky, during the meeting they discussed the issue of long-range weapons and weapons that can be supplied to Ukraine. Zelensky said that they both have a joint vision of further developments and prospects in this war. The president informed that this week, together with the United States and 60 other powers, Ukraine is submitting a draft resolution in support of peace to the UN General Assembly. And on the eve of February 24th, the approval of this resolution will be evidence that the terrorist force will never break civilized law, Zelensky said. He also added the results of this visit will be felt on the battlefield in the liberation of our territory. In his evening video address, the president said that they discussed how to do everything to ensure our common victory this year in the war that Russia unleashed. We have to do everything to put an end to Russian aggression this year, to liberate our still occupied territories, and to guarantee reliable security for our country and for all the peoples of Europe who want to live in freedom and peace, emphasized Zelensky. The Guardian informed that National Security Advisor to the US President Jake Sullivan spoke about the details of Joe Biden's conversation with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv, reports Ukrainska Pravda. According to him, they talked about the coming months on the battlefield, about what Ukraine needs, about the opportunities for success. Presidents also discussed Ukraine's needs in energy, infrastructure, economic and humanitarian support, as well as the political side of the matter, in particular about the upcoming session of the UN General Assembly. They touched upon the Ukrainian peace formula and Ukraine's efforts aimed at gaining international support for a just, stable and lasting peace built on the principles of the UN Charter, the main of which are sovereignty and territorial integrity. Sullivan hinted that Biden and Zelensky might have talked about specific weapons systems, including F-16 fighter jets, but provided no details. Jake Sullivan confirmed information shared by the media that Russia was warned in advance about US President Joe Biden's visit to Kyiv, reports Radio Liberty. According to him, the information was provided a few hours before Biden's visit to avoid any moments that could lead to the conflict between two nuclear states. The media also informed that Biden arrived in Kyiv on a train from Poland and returned the same way. The Highlights from Ukraine podcast is an uncommercial initiative of just two people, and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the apps, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better. According to Bloomberg, the Chinese plan for the peaceful settlement of the Russian war against Ukraine contains calls for a ceasefire and immediate stop of arms supplies to Ukraine, reports Interfax Ukraine. European officials familiar with the plan, who wish to remain anonymous, said that it is expected that Putin may make similar remarks during his speech in Moscow on Tuesday and could potentially propose a draft UN resolution on February 24th to compete with the resolution proposed by Ukraine. Earlier in an interview with the German media Die Welt, Volodymyr Zelensky said that if China were to ally with Russia, there would be a world war, and China is aware of that. It is important for Ukraine that China does not support Russia in the war, the head of state said, adding that at the moment it is impossible to have China on Ukraine's side. EU High Representative for Foreign and Security Policy Josep Borrell said that if China supplies Russia with weapons to wage war with Ukraine, it will cross red lines in relations with the European Union. Ukraine expects to reach agreement with the International Monetary Fund to launch a new multi-year major program in the amount of more than $15 billion, reports Ekonomichna Pravda. This was stated by the Prime Minister following his meeting in Kyiv with the head of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva. It is planned that the program with the IMF will consist of two parts: immediate financial support and support for structural reforms that will contribute to recovery. At the same time, Japan plans to announce a new $5.5 billion financial aid package for Ukraine, reports Interfax Ukraine. The announcement will be made at the G7 meeting on February 24th. If you like what we do and would like to tip us, you can now do so directly to our PayPal. Check out the link in the description to this episode for more details. And as usual, you can subscribe to our Patreon. In gratitude for your help, we will give you access to a series of exclusive episodes on wartime life in Ukraine. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.